Brawls, a part of Major League Baseball that can be very entertaining for the fans, but not so entertaining for the players and teams. Every now and then, fans will witness an outrageous brawl occur consisting of plenty of punches and plenty of tension, but possibly one of the biggest fights in MLB history was between the San Diego Padres and the Atlanta Braves in 1984. This brawl was so bad that it caused a whopping 17 players to get ejected. Not only that, but numerous players were fined and suspended because of the brawl. Multiple fights occurred in the same game, and it was pure chaos. This fight will go down in history as one of the biggest MLB brawls, but every major event has a backstory, including this one. Now, when a brawl usually happens, it's because of tension between two or more players, and it causes for benches to clear and so on. But this fight started for a very dumb reason. Let's start off with the scene and where we are. It's August 12th, 1984. The Padres and the Braves were playing each other, and the Padres had already won 2 games in the series and were 10.5 games above them in the NL West. And yes, the Braves used to be in the NL West until 1994 when they moved to the NL East. 2 men were involved in the starting of this fight, Pascual Perez and Alan Wiggins. John Boy Media made a great breakdown of this fight on his channel, so if you want to check that out, go ahead. But he believes the reason why this fight started was because Wiggins kept laying down some bunts in the previous game, and Perez got mad and told him to swing the bat. To attempt to make him stop, Perez beamed Wiggins on his back on the first pitch of the ballgame. No fight started here, but it was the start to a nightmare. Obviously, the Padres wanted their revenge on the Braves, and normally what MLB teams do is they hit one of their players as a form of payback. It's weird, but it's baseball. So when Pascual Perez came up to the plate, the Padres pitcher Randy Robertson went after him with a pitch that went behind him. This is when both teams knew what was about to go down. Perez would attempt running around the umpire to chase Robertson, but by the time he escaped, benches had already cleared with players getting in the way. Now things could have ended right there. The Braves hit one of the Padres players, and the Padres threw behind one of the Braves players. But no, the Padres said they actually wanted to hit the man. When Perez was back up to bat, he would get thrown out again. But this time, the Padres took 3 attempts to hit him in the at-bat, and Randy Robertson missed all 3. And the umpire not only tossed Robertson from the game, but also the Padres manager Dick Williams. So now the Padres have attempted to hit a Braves player in 2 consecutive at-bats, while the Braves have hit a Padres player just once. You'd think the Braves would answer back, right? I mean, Perez was mad at Wiggins for bunting, so why wouldn't he get offended by this? But no, the Padres were not done. In Perez's 3rd at-bat, the Padres' new pitcher Greg Booker throws one right at Perez, missed because Perez got out of the way, and then got ejected. The Padres' second manager also gets ejected as the umpire had enough. Surprisingly, Perez was not attacking. He remained calm in his corner, but it was then in his 4th at-bat when things really went down. The Padres were not done with Perez. They brought in a new guy, Craig Lefferts, and guess what? He throws one right at Perez, and this time, the Braves were not going to let it slide. Lefferts got ejected, the Padres' 3rd manager of the day got tossed, and the bench is clear for the 2nd time today. The second brawl had a lot more punches, shoves, and players being held back. Perez was not involved in the fight as he was staying in his corner, but there was one guy on the Padres who thought Perez could not easily get out of the situation. He would have to suffer too. The guy's name is Champ Summers, and he decides to charge after Perez, who was in the Braves dugout. He runs towards the dugout to go look for him, but one guy by the name of Bob Horner steps in the way and stops him. Horner was a big guy, 6'1" and 215 pounds. There was no way Summers would get past him. Horner held him back despite being on the DL with a broken hand. He still got in that fight and stood up for his boys with a broken bone. What a man. But once Horner's blocked Summers, this was when some fans decided it was a good idea to add some fuel to the fire. One fan decides to throw a cup of what seems to be soda at the players. Then 2 other guys jump in to block Summers from entering the dugout and throw a little punch or 2. Once the others realized what was going on, all the attention shifted to Horner and Summers. Once a dozen players come and basically jump Summers, he gives up and decides he no longer wants to go after Perez. The fans who were involved were arrested, but the story does not end there. Once the altercation between Summers and Horner is over, another fight breaks out. I'm not too sure why this fight started, but the players ran to another side of the field trying to break it up. Eventually, the fight finally stopped and the game resumed. But just when you thought it was all over, It was far from the case. Perez is now out of the game, and a new pitcher comes in for Atlanta, Donnie Moore. The Padres infielder Greg Nettles is up to bat, and on the second pitch of the at-bat, Moore throws one right at Nettles, causing yet another brawl. The benches will clear once again, and this time it involved more punching, shoving, and tension. After that fight was over, another set of players threw punches and causes for yet another fight to happen. All the players would try to stop the ongoing fights, and it would eventually calm down. And that was the last fight of this crazy game. But guess what? The story is not over yet. After the fight ended, the fans said they were not done. Braves fans started to throw random objects and drinks into the Padres dugout, and the players got pissed off and tried to find the goons who did this. While players and security are trying to solve this new problem, a fan decides to run onto the field for no reason. He gets stomped on by the Braves players and was pointed to leave. More fans would get arrested, and that's where the story comes to an end. The Braves will go on to win the game 5-3, but honestly, I doubt the Padres cared. A total of 17 ejections occurred, and around 4 arrests. This was one of the crazier MLB games fans ever had to witness, and we will most likely never see a fight of this sort in baseball again. Tim Flannery, a former MLB player who was a part of the fight, was asked what if he thought a replica of this fight could ever happen, and here's what he had to say. Quote, "It's so different today. It's hard for today's players to understand. They've sanitized the game with no collisions at second base and at home and bigger bases." Flannery is basically saying how the game has evolved since then, and tensions are not as high as they once were. Now sure, there are still some bad fights that occur today, with players and teams having a lot of tension, but comparing it to this fight, yeah, it's not even close. This fight will forever go down as one of the craziest brawls in MLB history.